Years ago, I was scrolling Twitter when I discovered the most fascinating image. It was from one of those cheap accounts that just steals and reposts random blurry Google images, likely going by the name Architecture Daily or something similarly uncreative. Yet there was something about this blurry picture that captured my imagination, and continues to do so all these years later. For it was then that I had been introduced to Germany's Schloss Drachenburg. The Schloss Drachenburg is an 18th century manor home constructed along the Rhine River, intended to be the primary residence of a wealthy stockbroker. Over the years, the Dragon Castle has found itself serving in a number of roles, ultimately falling into a state of disrepair. It was only then that an elaborate 20-year restoration project sought to bring it back to its former glory, and in 2011 the castle was open to the public and remains a popular tourist destination within Germany. It didn't take long before I decided I wanted to build it for myself. At the time, building it out of Lego bricks wasn't exactly an option. I was a poor college boy stuck in a dorm, but I was still actively building at Hypixel and decided to give a Minecraft version a go. In order to build at the level of detail that I wanted, I decided to scale the castle up significantly. In fact, the castle and grounds would end up being over 500 blocks tall altogether, a feat completely impossible in 1.8.9 Minecraft, where the height limit was set firmly at 256 blocks. So the Schloss Drachenburg was built in 3 separate layers, which could only be spliced together and viewed in an external program like Blender. The build was an incredible challenge, as it seemed at the time especially the German castle was a rather niche and relatively unknown destination to the wider world. Visiting, unfortunately, remained an impossible ask of my $0 budget for the project, so I was left to rely on images and videos that I found online. Even so, I was still able to recreate a pretty faithful replica of the castle, a blueprint that would prove invaluable as I moved on to my second, more ambitious project. It seemed inevitable that I would one day recreate the castle in LEGO 2, and it was there in 2019 that my obsession with dark orange began as I attempted to amass parts for the castle. The resulting project ended up being one of my largest, at nearly 4 feet wide and 2 feet tall. It remains one of my favorite models, even though it only lives on in pictures. While I had now tackled the castle in my 2 favorite mediums, I wasn't quite done with it yet. I'd go on to make another smaller Minecraft version, one that you can actually still find in the Hypixel housing lobby. And here in 2025, I really wanted to try a mini Lego version too. This would be something I could hopefully keep for a long time, and the different scale would provide an entirely different building experience. As all things do, the project began with acquiring the necessary elements. I don't use digital designers, but rather like to tinker with the physical pieces. So for this project, that meant getting my hands on as many tiny dark orange and tan elements as possible and just seeing what worked. And honestly, a great place to gain inspiration for models like this is from LEGO's own architecture series. LEGO kindly sent over the Notre Dame Cathedral, which gave me a ton of useful bricks and some great techniques to help bring the Schloss Drachenburg to life. Even though Notre Dame is lacking in the dark orange department, there was still plenty of useful stuff here. The set's trees work pretty perfectly in any environment, and I definitely wanted to add some of those to the Drachenburg. The pieces used for the dark gray roof would be especially helpful for my castle, as the colors and shapes were pretty similar between the 2 structures. And at the end of the day, a bunch of the castle is indeed still tan, so all these great tiny detailing elements made my job a lot easier. I really wanted to use the beautiful printed circular windows made exclusively for Notre Dame, but as it turned out, they were just a little too big for my build. I'll find a good home for these in the future. When it came to dark orange elements, I found wands, telescopes, and of course cheese slopes to be great at defining the microscale details I was looking for. Just like the Drachenburgs built before it, I started with the clock tower. I tried to make it as small as I could while maintaining as much detail as possible. The scale of the tower went on to dictate the size of the rest of the model. It did make for a rather awkward experience building the castle upside down much of the time, starting from the highest point and finishing with the castle's base and grounds. Still, I figured that prioritizing the most iconic and recognizable parts of the castle would be well worth the extra effort. And well, here's the final result.
So that's my last drachenburg. For now. I'm sure I said that after the first one too. I hope you enjoyed this little mock showcase. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you have yourself a great life.